Welcome back to episode 8 of our podcast. We have Chris Pareda, Director of PR, Erik Goldfarb, who's one of the chairman founders, like has an OG first hire all the way back to the beginning with me. But thanks for hopping on, guys.
Oh, no, it's great to be here.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Yeah, we pulled you out of the... Chris woke up sick this morning.
I know. I'm sick. Listen, I do anything for a line. Anything.
If his energy levels
I drive an hour
through the roof
in traffic to do it for a line.
No, definitely. But I know that, we figured let's all hop on together because you were asking me a little bit about my background. Mm-hmm. Erik's my OG. I mean, he's the first guy that ever came onto the team. We didn't even have an assistant when that happened. And I thought that, we'll talk about my background a little bit too, but Erik has a good one. I mean, Erik and I'll let you say. I mean, how did this start? How'd this come about?
I feel like it was just us connecting at least was more of like the perfect storm. I was in college and I had come up and shadowed you on like a break. Shout out Terps.
Go. Did you ever rub the head of the going to the library?
Testudo, of course.
The head of the term? Oh, yeah.
Yeah, the few times we showed up in the library. Hence being a realtor.
Yeah, and that's before they had like the sanitary thing that you had to do after.
Oh, yeah, during COVID. Yeah. That was the end of rubbing Testudo.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I came up and shadowed Brett just to see what the residential real estate world was all about, and ended up jumping into commercial just to get that experience right out of college. I figured, if I was ever going to do commercial, that would have been the time to do it. And had a nice 6-month stint there, learned the foundation, worked a couple of deals with a really good mentor, and actually kind of brought a lot of that foundation over to Brett when we were starting to grow the team and do all that. But honestly, I think right around the time that I quit that job, Brett, I reached back out to him, or you might have even reached back out to me, and like perfect timing. And you were like, "Hey, I'm actually starting my own team. If you want to jump on board," and the rest is really history.
So, how did you find yourself to Brett and to real estate? Because it sounds like there was something in between.
Yeah, I always knew that I wanted to be in sales. I was a criminology major, and by the end of college,
that's as salesy as sales.
I didn't know
that. I thought an actuary.
I thought it was going to be law school, but by the end of it, I was like, I need to start making money. So, my brother actually knew Brett. The first deal that my brother did in the investment world, Brett sold him. That was a flip in Bergen Lafayette, and so I had known Brett. I had shadowed him, and then it just all aligned.
So how long after you graduated college, when you went to actuary, getting into actuary, which is the best sales job ever, then meeting Brett and kind of transitioning, how long did that take?
It was about a year.
What was what did you bump into that Brett kind of because you're the OG, mm-hmm. You're the longest standing person, first hire.
Yep.
And it's remarkable, and we'll talk about that in a bit, but how did you recognize I can do this, I want to do this, and I want to do it with him?
Well, I think right around when I was starting, Brett was coaching with Matthew Ferry. And so I think that helped Brett be in such a really good headspace, even though he was growing the team and bumping into every roadblock possible. But he just did it with such ease. And I think his personality during that time was so magnetic that I knew that I could rely on him for any deal, growing my business. He was just a good backbone at that time, and he's obviously continued to be. So,
what was your aha moment? Where you're because you're still here.
Yeah.
And the one thing I want to emphasize to everyone who's watching this is that my experience has been, you come in, you don't know anything, you just steal ideas from someone who does, and then the grass is green on the other side.
Yep.
So the one thing that I find remarkably unique with the line is all the top producers are still here.
Yep.
You don't see that. I haven't seen it anywhere. So from your perspective, not speaking for anyone else, what keeps you here?
So I haven't heard that aha moment question since the KW days.
I wasn't there, sorry.
Honestly, it's still the backbone. It's still the value, the culture and the team. We've grown from just me and Brett and having no assistants to one assistant. Now we've got, probably over 80 people on the team.
Right.
And it's just the opportunity to do whatever you want in this business, which is honestly the main reason that I got out of commercial, because it was just so one-track minded. And having that support to do whatever you want to do, wherever it might be.
So you only do residential now?
Yeah, so mostly residential. I've done a couple commercial deals throughout the years, but a lot of investing too. Definitely, an agent focused, but investor driven.
So what was your buy-in to Brett and the organization? Because again, you're the first, and that's hard.
Yeah.
Being the first. You have no assistance. You have no support.
Do you remember we were in that little office like licking envelopes and sending mailers out?
You have no
and
support. And that's what I mean, your buy-in. What was it that you found in Brett and the organization, and you have a stellar reputation as well, that kind of kept you here, kept you going, and why other people should look at Align and why versus anyone else?
I think the single most important reason is that Brett's always in the trenches. He's not the type of guy that's going to go off and live on a beach, although he says sometimes that he wants to do it.
I've seen the pictures. We're Facebook friends.
Yeah, he lives on the beach for a day and then he goes back to work. Right. But yeah, he's always in the trenches, and he'll go out on appointments with you if you need to. He's set up a team and a structure where there's so much value and so much support, no matter if you're a brand new agent or if you're a seasoned agent, you've been in the business for 5, 10 plus years. I got a business planning call with Omar. I've been in the business for longer than him, but you'll always learn something from anybody. And, I think that we're set up in that way.
Well, it's funny you say that, because Brett and I have talked about this with our training and all our training systems that are remarkable. I get on all the calls even with my experience, I always take a nugget. Mm-hmm. There's always something that you can take. Exactly. So if you think you're omnipotent and you know it all, you don't.
Exactly.
You don't.
Yeah.
All right. So Brett, why don't you share with us, because you and I, I've done research on you and we've been talking about your background. It's kind of a remarkable, kind of a story of like going out, working, not working. It doesn't work out. It works out. It doesn't work out. And then how did you get from there to running one of the largest EXP firms in the country?
And one of the things that Erik was kind of touching on too, I think that what's helped me grow to where I am today is I listen to feedback. You tell me when shit's broken, and we go in and try to fix it. And if I can't fix it today, I'll say, I want to fix that. I can't start working on that project until 6 months down the road, though. But it's docketed. It's there. You're heard. We're going to fix it. And that transaction management is something we're actively working on. The training you touched on too. For the top producer, for instance, if they're coming within our organization, they can't always make showings. They can't do certain things. Or maybe they need help. Like I'm going on a listing appointment today for Tara, and I'm going on one with Cameron, which is hence this fancy blazer.
That I actually made you buy.
Yes, you did actually.
For our video.
Yeah, it's a great blazer.
I called him. I would say, "Where are you?" He's like, "I'm coming back from Short Hills Mall. You made me buy a blue blazer." And I'm like, "All right, whatever." It looks great, by the way.
But to your point, like really going in and having that around you where okay, great. I might be performing really well with where I'm at, but I don't have well-trained agents around me to support me and make me look good if there's a buyer for $400,000 that I don't have the bandwidth to take or something like that. So within our organization, there's resources and there's things that you can tap on too as a top producer, where it may not be as direct as that one-on-one coaching to say, hey, do this, 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 and this. It might be more so, hey, let's use this to free up your time so you can do more of what you're really good at. But to get back in, to the first part of your question, I failed, it was
just give us, because you are a case study in tenacity and not giving up and not listening to the naysayers. And I think regardless of coming to Align, I think it's a great story.
Right.
Your background.
Yeah. So 2007, well, let's go back. I had my I had a landscaping company in 2004 that I started in high school. And I was doing that for quite some time. I did that for about 3 or 4 years. And I ended up selling that in 2007 to get my real estate license. Reason being why I had gotten out of that business is it was really tough to find help, and it was really tough to scale with labor. So shout out to anybody who owns a large business that has manual labor as an aspect of it, because my final year in it was me with 2 guys in 1 truck, 2 other crews out. And I found that I spent my whole week cleaning up the messes that they created. So I'd come home, cell phones weren't used as much then. Come home, check the office line. We didn't have email really. I wasn't good with email, let's say, back then. and I'd check the office line, and I'd have 4 voicemails of things that got screwed up that day, and then I'd call people back till 8 at night, and then the next morning I'd go out and clean up those 4 messes, and then from there, I was just kind of pushing along and realized that's not really what I want to do. I knew that, I was always talked down to by people who lived in these large, wonderful homes, regardless of how successful I was, because I was in work boots and blah, 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 blah. So I knew I wanted to, I wanted to drive a Mercedes. I wanted to wear suits. I wanted to be elevated. And that's when I got my real estate license. The idea was to get into real estate on the investing side of things, which was 2007. And fortunately, I didn't buy anything then. And I really struggled as a realtor. I mean, I don't know if we talked about it on the first podcast, but I got a job with Foxtons, which was that Mini Cooper driving around. I was a listing. Yeah. Do you remember them? No? Okay. You're too young. You were like 12 when those were.
He blocked it out.
But there were these British Mini Coopers that you would drive around. And I was a listing specialist. So they were set up as more of a team, but they were a discount broker, which always fails. But they had listing agents. I got a laptop. I got healthcare. I got a company vehicle. And I think the base salary was $40,000 a year, and then like real, $200 for closing or something. It was something, it was not a great comp structure, but it was a payday. So I was supposed to start training, I believe it was August of 2007. It was like on a Monday. And I got a phone call that Friday that they went bankrupt and closed their doors. So I was like, oh shit, now what? So again, you just kind of, everything seems to like have a plan, and you start getting punched in the mouth a little bit, and you're like, okay, now what am I going to do? So Weichert and Randolph, I started working with them, and I was with them for about 9 months or so. And my mentor at the time was Jill Southern, still friends with her, fantastic, top producer out in Morris County. And she was basically saying, like, they were trying to teach me the sweat hogs way. If anybody has been around for a while, Ed Escobar was a big sweat hogs, and he's like, oh, you got to set the hook and then zzz. Like that was his like sales training.
Don't do that again.
No. So I'm 21 years old. Like,
don't do that again.
Who's this guy? I'll try it. But there was I wasn't afraid to take action. There was no tactical game plan around what it was that I was supposed to be doing. So he's like, set the appointment. Great. When I go on the appointment, what do I say? Where's the listing presentation? Where's this? There was no like real playbook around it. And that's something that was great about Marks and Millichap. I feel like their training was really built out, where you brought a lot of that influence within the organization.
Totally. Yeah, it was intense.
Maybe stole a playbook or two from Marks and Millichap. We may or may not have the spiral notebooks behind us in the cabinet. But from there, Jill was saying, I'm from Hudson County. Jill was from Hudson County or from Englewood Cliffs. And she's like, you really need to go out to the Gold Coast. You need to be on the Hudson River. You need to go sell out there. And I had only done, I think, one rental. I made like, $500 or something after Weichert's Vigs. And it didn't even pay for my E&O for the year. So I was in rough shape. I had sold the landscaping company. I didn't have money. And I was back against the wall. So I went into car sales. And I was good at the whole car sales component. I just, I actually talked about it with Monique again on the last podcast, but I just didn't like that style of selling. I didn't like, not being aligned with the consumer and kind of fighting against them. Whereas real estate, you're really helping them build wealth. And if they follow a plan, we can all look back 30 years from now and be like, oh, that was great work. So that's what I like about the real estate side of things. But with that, October of 2008, the car sales business really took a big hit. And that's when I found myself back in real estate doing rentals. I saw an ad on Craigslist, make $100,000 your first year doing rentals in Hoboken. And Hoboken was, anybody that hasn't been to Hoboken, go check that place out. It's a lot of fun. So I was there, for 14 years or so and really just cranking boots on the ground, specifically in Hoboken. But it wasn't easy. It wasn't fun. And that's really what I feel like my passion is with Erik Goldfarb. Like, I'm going to call him out on here, but when I get text messages that, he hit a 7-figure net worth at 30 years old or at 29 years old, like, that's freaking cool.
Yeah, but he went to Maryland. He doesn't know who Len Bias is. So, I mean, that's, got to Google that, Erik.
Not true. I know who Len Bias is. I certainly wasn't there when he was there.
But why don't you just call me old at this point?
But like Eric Eckhart, when he just bought a 2-family, 2 weeks ago, and Andrew Cassie owns a home, and Kevin Cassie owns a home, and Omar Super, like, people, you own multiple properties. Like, when people are doing that within my organization, it really makes my heart sing, especially down in their 20s, because that really is what I feel like my purpose has become and what I'm passionate about. The reason why I'm able to be persistent and be in the trenches and really like play all out day in and day out, it's not work for me. It's Monique was just on here and she's talking about selling 45 homes, being licensed less than 24 months, like, and actually hitting it, doing 10 million her first year, and she's only really selling for 6 of those months.
But what does she attribute that to being part of this organization? Because that's not normal.
Well, it's funny. So when you talk about, and that's why it's great having Erik on here too.
Yeah.
When Erik and I started, it was really, I had to lead with the energy. I had to lead with culture. I had to lead with, I was going up, I had broken off of a large team that had a lot more to offer than me as far as what I saw. And we really were this like small tribe that we hit the ground running. Andrew Cassie came not long after you did. Dan Spitz came about 15 months
Eckhart,
after that or so.
Jason.
And then Eckhart and then Jason. So that's kind of like our core crew. And we would hire folks in between, and we could feel like I became hypersensitive to culture and things throwing it off. So remember like certain realtors that would come in.
It's called ADHD. That's fine.
And I'd have to move those folks out because I realized that they're not a good fit for what we're doing. And
I can jump in there.
yeah,
I think that, part of the attraction to the team and what's kept everybody around for so long is not only like you're hypersensitive to the culture, but you're also hypersensitive to like just knowing everybody so well and knowing that, there's times to push and pull on certain people, and there's certain times where people are coasting and you let them be. Like, you're not micromanaging anybody, but I think that you've got a really good sense of everybody's energy, and like you're there to support people when they need you, but you're also there to let them be autonomous and run their own business and let them do what they've got to do. It's like you're not over anybody's shoulder. You're just there to support, which is good.
Hey, Brett, can you share with us, and it's kind of like it's happening right now in like as with the Gen Zers, that your educational background and how it translated to what you're doing now versus, you look at Bill Gates, you look at Richard Branson, you look at Steve Jobs, who all said, you know what? This isn't for me. I'm going to go out and make my own mark. So where was that for your moment? And if you could share that with everyone.
well, do you want me to go back to like high school? You want me to go deep?
No, I don't think that. Bringing back nursery school.
Well, no, I mean,
No, about your, we went to Maryland. So, but I don't use anything. I mean, I learned stuff there, but look.
Just the network. That's
just
it.
the network. So at what point did you decide, you know what, I got one semester, this isn't for me, I'm out, and I'm going to be an entrepreneur?
Yeah, so I mean, I started the landscaping company in high school. So that was something that I was doing anyway. And I remember my guidance counselor. So I was graduating with a 1.8 GPA. I still have to find that report card. I posted a few years back.
I wouldn't post that anywhere.
I'm going to post it everywhere. It's going to be on the back of our new T-shirts.
It'll be the new logo.
Yeah. But I graduated with a 1.8 GPA. And one of the things that I always found in school, and I didn't, I was able to kind of manipulate the system. I was never absent, by the way, either. So over the years, I worked up so much like absent status, or I forget what it was called, but I was able to just really, really take off senior year, and kind of broke the system on how I was able to do that. But they were always calling me, and they're like, where are you going to go to college? Where are you going to? You got to start planning, blah 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 blah. And I remember saying to myself, well, I always hated formal education because my take on it, and that's the ADD or ADHD, was, hey, let me pop a Ritalin, which I was prescribed to pop them. I wasn't using them for speed. It would actually help me focus. But let me study a book. Let me take a test on the book, and let's skip the whole class part. Because at the end of the day, you need me to know what's in there, and I don't need 90 days of listening to a teacher 5 days a week to understand what's in there. So for me, the reason why and the only reason why I went to college for one semester is I just needed the healthcare, and I was able to do that to still get it under my parents. So I failed out that semester, but I think I paid $1,800 for a semester at County College versus paying $2,800 for my own healthcare.
So give us the case study, because you're a case study.
Yeah.
You're a walking case study. You had a 1.8 out of high school, you failed out of community college, and now you have one of the largest real estate firms in New Jersey. Shortly bridge that gap, because that's a case study.
Yeah. So when if I'm interested in something, I can really move towards that. And I think that that's kind of what you're experiencing.
That's ADHD.
Yeah. So business is of interest to me. Agents succeeding at a young age, a short amount of time, it's of interest to me. Scaling a large organization is of interest to me. So it has all of my attention. I am laser focused on that. And I knew that that's where I needed to live and couldn't sit behind a desk with inefficiencies, which I look at corporate structures at Goldman Sachs or whatever it may be. Like I see it all the time where, and that's probably why I'm passionate about the consulting front and how we're doing things there now. I just see so much inefficiency in what's happening with agents, with staff members, with, and that's probably you're hitting the nail on the head. It's my ADD just firing through the roof where I know that there's a better way to do things. When you remove inefficiencies from business and from salespeople and distractions and whatnot, you find that it's very difficult not to scale. And it's I try to be likable and whatnot, but I think that from a cultural standpoint, really the main thing is I'm here, I'm working, I'm in the office, we're all doing this. It's you talked to me the one time about how you're always in the car on Zoom and stuff like that. And I'm like, yeah, because I have to go on a listing appointment for Terra Plaza this afternoon. I have to go meet with Cameron Del Judas on another one. So I'm going from Morristown down to Red Bank to present, going up to Hasbrook Heights to present from there. And then I come home and my kids punch me in the face for 2 hours until they go to bed, and then I go to bed and I wake back up and
it's nothing a bourbon can't solve.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
No, but there's this whole thing with ADHD, and it becomes like I have a son who's been diagnosed with it. The reality is, and you nailed it. It's not a deficiency. It's like for someone to say procrastinate, they're trying to take procrastinate out of the lexicon, because I don't procrastinate. I just wait till the last minute to do things I don't want to do.
Yeah.
So that library, how many times I rub that Terp's head, because I'm the guy who goes into the library at 3:00 in the morning. I cram it all in.
Yep.
I take my 8:10 and then I dump it.
Yep.
So I totally have it. And I think most people have it, but like my son is very good at certain subjects and he's not good at others. And everyone's like putting the red flags up and everyone's trying to be concerned about it. I'm like, no, me, physics, biology, math, chemistry. If I see the periodic table one more time, I'm telling you, yep. I get the whole Mento and the Coke and watch it go. I like the experiments, but I didn't like it didn't grab my attention. And I think you nailed it. It's just find that thing. You did the landscaping business and it was profitable, but it wasn't your thing.
Yep.
Then you did the car business. It was profitable, but it wasn't your thing. And now you've done real estate and it's profitable and you found your thing. So my whole thing is, the guys in baseball who strike out the most, hit the most home runs. Swing.
Yep.
Just keep trying to find your thing, because everyone has one, but it's not what they often do is they try to put you in a box.
Yep.
And like, okay, everyone's got to do this. Everyone's got to do that. And I completely disagree. Having children, I have 3 and older children. I completely disagree with that theorem.
Yeah.
So find your passion. Look, I don't know anyone who really blows it out, who doesn't have a passion for what they do. Name that person. Name that person who does it just for money. Well, I don't know that person.
That was one of the things with Matthew Ferry, and you got into his courses too. But when I started working one-on-one with Matthew, we realized that his dad, Mike, was very jam a realtor into that box, do it the Mike Ferry way, and this is the way that it works, period. If you do it any other way, you just don't do this business. That didn't work. It was forceful. It felt like school to me. It felt like, okay, I don't really like doing this. So what we found was there are a lot of different ways in this box that can earn money, and let's pull on 2 or 3 of them and be experts at those. And that's really what I focused on with the agents when we talk about not pushing them to do something they don't want to do. It's more so, how do we empower you to do what you're really good at? So Erik, when he first started out, you were heavy in networking events, heavy in the investor world.
Yep.
I think I kept saying to him, stop selling multifamilies because the inspections suck on them.
You're not saying that now.
And go sell condos. And you've kind of, adapted to that a little bit more. But yeah, the investor world is really where I want to say you built a big business in the beginning, right?
Yeah, I mean, that was my passion. That was why I got into the residential real estate world, was just to be in the trenches and start finding deals through, being an agent. And obviously it's better to be able to call someone and have different avenues for them. I can buy their house. I can help them sell their house, whatever that might look like. And yeah, I feel like when you guys were talking on the last podcast, you were talking about average price points. And when I first started in the investment world, I think I sold a $40,000 single family house in Jersey City. And over time, I just started focusing more on the higher price points and letting go of the middle to lower end price points and giving them to newer agents on the team that are going to work them a lot harder than I would. And now my average price point for this year is going to finish over $1 million. So,
yeah.
So Erik, how long have you been in the business?
It's been almost 8 years.
Okay, so there's an evolution. What are your thoughts on sticking to your guns versus being malleable as the business changes? Sales is sales.
Yep.
Right? Whether you're selling commercial, multifamily, single family, apartments, it doesn't matter. What would be your advice? Because you're boots on the ground.
Yep.
What would be your advice on how to be malleable and adapt to the market? Because if you wait too long, then the market's past you.
Yep.
So have you done that? Like, how do you do it, and what's been your skill in doing that?
Yeah, definitely. I'll backtrack a little bit. I think that sticking to your guns, you definitely have to know instinctively like who you are and who you work well with. And that's probably not going to change. You can be malleable and you can be a chameleon, but you're always going to work well with certain clients. You're always going to work well with certain clients that have a certain type of passion, and just align with them like that. And then on the flexibility side, I mean, this business is crazy and it's always changing. And if you get stuck doing the same thing year after year, you'll probably still do fine, but you've got to be able to switch up your schedule. You've got to be able to switch up, like I said, the clients that you're working with, or the days that you're prospecting, and how often are you working in the business versus on the business. And that's really the best way to grow, because I've seen this with agents back when I was training everybody. It's easy to get from 1 to 5 million. It's pretty easy to get from 5 million to 10 million if you stick it out. But getting from 10 to 20 is really difficult because there's so many things that you have to stop doing and do a little bit different.
So you're one of the top producers here. What's your secret sauce? You've seen it all. 8 years is a long time in this business.
Yeah.
With a 90% drop-off rate, like in the first year and a half, 2 years. What's your secret sauce and your advice to people who want to get into this business and be able to get to where you and Brett have gotten to, given the likely low success rate and probabilities? What's the secret sauce?
For me, I think it's definitely been the wide range of experience that I've had in the business over the last 8 years. I've been in the business for 8 years. I just turned 31, and I feel like I have the experience of somebody that's your average realtor who's 55 and a half at this point.
Just pump the brakes on that one. Just everyone calm down.
So I've been around the block, but I still have, the energy and the tenacity of a young agent. So I'm willing to be in the trenches and do what I need to do to make sure my client has the best experience.
Yeah, but here's the thing. Digging a little deeper on this question. Yeah. Everybody has technology.
Yeah.
Everybody has processes. Mm-hmm. Everybody has systems. They all have it.
Yep.
What is the difference with you and teaming with Brett and Align that we can offer agents to come on board? Because everyone says we give white glove service. We do this. Yeah. Agent or someone calls, we answer the phone. Everyone says that. Yeah. Most don't do it, but everyone says that. So what is that mark of demarcation that you find with your repeat clients that come back to you over and over and over again? Because my feeling is once you've been in this business and you've done it right for 3 years, it should become easy.
Yeah.
It should become easy.
It's the trust. When people talk to me, they talk about, okay, you work in sales. Yeah, we work in sales because at the end of the day, we're selling houses. But I can't remember the last time I asked a client to sign the paperwork. I can't remember the last time I asked a client to basically see if they wanted to submit an offer, right? Like they're always coming to me and they're saying, okay, this is finally the property that we love, or we're ready to go. I just had a client that I was following up with for 2 years. She was a past client. Hadn't heard from her. literally for 2 years. I sold her a place in 2017, and she just emailed me this weekend saying that she's back in town and she wants to meet. So clients don't need you till they need you. You're never going to be able to force somebody into buying or selling a home. And if you do, it's either going to end badly or they're just going to back out, right? So it's really just advising clients and leading them down that path and getting to know them versus trying to sell them on the process.
Right.
The process is the process.
Do you have a system, a defined system in how you touch them to just make sure you're still here? Like, hey, just thinking of you. Mm-hmm. Hey, you know what? Or an anniversary of the sale that you just made. Because I think that's so valuable. Like, hey, I was just thinking of you. Congratulations. It's been 1 year.
Yep.
Do you have a defined system in how you do that? Either through our technology or through your own brain, anywhere?
Yeah. I'm very active on social media, and that's just a way to keep tabs on, what people are doing and, life changes in their that they're going through, and be there to support them based on what might happen based on that life event. And then quarterly touches to past clients, always doing that. And around the holidays, if I just worked with a client in that past year, or it's a client that has referred me business in the last 2 years, I'll send them some Levain cookies, and that's become my staple.
Cookie man. You're the cookie man.
I'm the cookie monster.
So, Brett, I have a question for you. So, traditionally, the old model, the Remax models, the Coldwell Banker models, you have a split and you give a finance fee or a franchise fee on your deal and whatever. And then Keller Williams came up and just blew it up.
Yep.
And it feels like EXP came up and blew up Keller Williams. And there's a mass exodus from Keller Williams to EXP. You've done both. So can you expand on why that's happening specifically? And more importantly, that you and I talked about this, is why joining a team adjusts the cap model versus just going on your own on an EXP?
Yeah, so I'll answer this from more of a corporate level and kind of how I came about the idea with a line behind the scenes with that, but not just KW. So anything you just meant, Remax, Century 21, all of them, they're franchise models. So what I found with them is that individually, the owners are responsible to run their own P&L. So they'll pay their franchise fee up to the parent, up to the global aspect of things, which does a little bit here and there. Like Gary Keller at KW, his messaging was very good when we were there. But then what would happen is it would come down to the owners. Then they hired their own team leaders and they hired their own front desk people. And the agents are all like badass thriving within that umbrella, but start to have doubts in regards to how it's being run in like middle management. So I see that all the time where a lot of the folks that are leading, offices that are managers are typically a realtor that maybe they did $5 million in sales 1 year and then they had to fall back on a $60,000 salary because they couldn't do what Erik Goldfarb does day in and day out. Mm-hmm. So they became a trainer. And we are seeing a lot of it right now in this market too. They're not good trainers. They're not good at doing that. So what I found was really different with EXP when I was seeking out, and we were at 46 million in 2018, and we've grown to 200 plus million since then. The folks that were going to help me solve my problems within my business were not within my Keller Williams office, and everything was an upcharge to go to certain events. If I wanted to go to a Jeff Glover event, it's $3,000, and I don't get Jeff Glover's cell phone at the end of that to go ask him questions from then on out. So when I came to EXP, we lined up with Tammy Pack, Kyle Whistle, Mary Maloney, Dan Beer. $600 million producers that really, I'll just text them and be like, hey, should I do this or should I do that? And they're like, do that, and here's why. So they've already done what I'm looking to do, mm-hmm. and it makes that trial and error process a hell of a lot smaller. So what I say is EXP, because we have the downlines, because we have those infrastructures, and we're more Zoom based, although we're sitting in our Morristown office, we still have a local component. We found that the training, the caliber of the people behind the elevating the business and whatnot just does not compare. And that is really difficult to compete with. And that's how the Align component came about, where it's like, how do we house as many expenses up at a corporate setting and allow people to still kind of have their own identity, but then plug into something bigger where we have those trainings just firing off throughout the week with, tri-state trainers that are badasses, and Erik Eckhart actually, I think he's running one right now, but he'll throw a dialer on, be side by side, invite you into the office, even though it's up on Zoom, and you could still be right next to him prospecting. And that just doesn't exist right now. People
What are some of the hurdles? Because EXP, look, you love them or hate them, just like Keller Williams, that model.
Yep.
Right?
Totally.
It feels like, we've talked about this. I don't think that EXP's messaging is on point. It feels like Amway-ish. But it's not. It's actually profitable. You get checks. They really come in. Mm-hmm. What is the biggest hurdle of selling that to others who say, oh, you're EXP?
What I tell people, if they're focused on the brand or the brokerage that they're operating out of, they're thinking of this completely in the worst way possible. Proximity is everything. And that's why when we talk about our team, I don't think there's another team in New Jersey that has as many top producers as we do that are all collaborating to get Daryl Bailey, Erik Goldfarb, Stephen Lewis, Omar Subi, Kevin Cassie, Andrew Cassie, James, like the list goes on and on, Terra Plaza. And people are cranking. So they're all mixed together and they're all playing all out. Anybody, like I'm saying, anybody who's that focused on brand at the end of the day and doesn't want to be the dumbest person at a table, that is insane to me. Like that is wild. And those tables don't exist unless, at other companies, unless you're paying to be at them. And sometimes, Gary Keller, I think, has his top 100, which is invite only. It feels very exclusive. We have our top 100 as well within the Fast Forward movement, but the Zoom has 800 people on it, so you can listen to us masterminding. Like that.
I don't know a client who's come around and said, like, just called Keller Williams, I recognize your brand. Is there an agent I can talk to? I have a $2 million home to sell.
Yeah.
It's the agent. It's the touch.
Yep.
I mean, Weichert's one of those companies that really prides themselves on being the brand that people called. Jim Weichert, the first office in Chatham, he picked a yellow sign because you could see it from the furthest down the road. So there's yellow signs everywhere, and that's really what they went with. I sat a lot of opportunity time at Weichert and Randolph, and I didn't make $1. So, that was their model. Sit at this desk, so we don't have to hire an admin to come sit there. So there's always going to be 2 realtors sitting there, and they're going to field calls that come in. And it's just the phone didn't ring, and it was just bankrupting agents. So I think the agent that sits there and relies on a brand to do something for them, is not going to be in this business.
No, you're the brand, I'm the brand, everyone's the brand.
And for me to go back to that pitch on EXP, I think that Glenn's brilliant, and EXP brought a lot of really fun people together to collaborate. But I always say if all of us left and went somewhere else or did something else the next day, it's the people that I want to be around. So EXP is the vehicle that's created that collaboration. Like you've plugged into a lot of their stuff too. Mm-hmm. Super cool. I mean, some really badass folks in the world of real estate that we have access to. But at the end of the day, I just really think the agent that sits there and focuses on brand and doesn't, it really, even like a top producer, if you're the top producer at a company or within an office that you're in and you're doing 40 million or 80 million a year or something like that, and there's nobody above you, in my eyes, you're complacent, you're lazy, you're being busy, which is a form of laziness. Like you don't want more out of life. So
it's just their ego, right? It's like, okay, I want to be that top agent in the office, but
Brett, if you could share with us, because you have the experience of EXP migrating over, with Keller Williams migrating over to EXP, now that you have both sides of this, because it feels like EXP just took the Keller Williams model and enhanced it.
Yeah.
Since you've had both, if you could share with the audience, from your own experience, what's the migration and why EXP over Keller Williams?
Well, the day one component for the agents on our team, and Erik was a capper at KW. We were a $45,000 cap plus a $3,000 royalty. So our team members were all on a half cap, and then they had a $3,000 royalty on top of that. So the half cap was $22,500 plus $3,000. So they're paying a little over $2,000 a month to the company that we're providing all of the training and resources to and whatnot. And building this whole system. That's kind of what had me looking. And day one, we moved with 13 agents on the Sikora group at the time alone. They all saved $2,000 a month just by going down to a $4,000 cap with no royalty at EXP. And people don't focus too much on that, but the reality is you can go lease an S-Class for $2,000.
That's real money.
That's a lot of money.
I always say if a billionaire walks down the street and sees a $100 bill on the street,
Yeah.
he'll pick it up.
Yeah.
100%. I mean,
Yeah.
money is money.
Yeah.
It's real.
So agents that aren't really punching, looking at the calculator and figuring out where are my dollars going in, who knows? There might be an agent at Christie's on a 75-25 split that's paying Christie's $200,000 a year, but they're getting a ton of value out of that $200,000. I'm just saying, like, measure it. Like, where are you getting your value from? And now we're seeing, with these mega teams coming around that are brand agnostic, running overpowering systems. So people are paying high splits or high commissions to that brokerage, and then getting all of their value from a team that they're also then splitting with too. Like, there's talk about efficiencies. There's way more efficient ways to run financially if you're coming into the right platform. And EXP was really set up well for mega teams set up well for single agents, new agents, whatever it may be. But dropping down to that $4,000 cap was a huge difference. And what I love about EXP is there's integrity across the platform. Nobody gets freebies, no deals are altered or anything like that. One of the things that killed me on the way out with KW, and I think I told you this, they tried to, when I was there, I was asking to alter those splits for the agents, go to quarter caps, change things like that. No. When I was leaving, they started offering like no cap for 1 year. All these deals started coming out. The royalty fee was going to go away. And then I started to peek under the hood a little bit, and I realized that, holy shit, everybody's got a different deal cut here. And people are, doing this, that, and the other thing. And that's why for our team, again, a lot of what I've done is through experience from the way that things made me feel. And I know that I don't want people to feel that way. So our split model goes up based on past 12 months of sales volume. You earn the next split. You could ask anybody on the team where your split is, or you would know where their split is because you could just pull up their sales and kind of see where they're at from that. There's integrity in that model. Nobody's getting special treatment.
Right.
And that's one of the things that really works well with everything that we do. I mean, you and I talk about integrity all the time. And with that franchise model, that's when things start to break and owners are calling their own shots. And you'll even see, multiple franchises within the same brand competing against each other in, Hoboken's owned by one person, Jersey City is owned by another one for the KW model. Not a huge deal, but throws up a little bit of not my style.
If you ran AXP, what would you do different?
If I ran EXP,
or I should say, when you run
when
EXP.
I run it, when Glenn,
and then we got to find new jobs.
When Glenn hands me the keys, I don't know. I don't. There's not a ton that I would change about it. I like the in-office component. You and I have talked about this too, and maybe Glenn, call me if you steal my idea, but having the luxury brand kind of coming down through it. Like we have EXP Luxury right now, but having the luxury brand with that model and just really pushing down on the luxury component. We do a lot of luxury and just elevating that. But no, I don't really have much to change about it right now. I feel like and that's why I don't own my own company. This works well.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, you do own your own company.
I own my own company, but
and under an umbrella.
But that's a
You
question.
do. Running a team is your own company.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah,
But that's a question. I mean, people always say, why don't, you have 4 offices, you're set up with brokers and everything around. Why don't you just break off? And I don't have an issue with the way that it's operating right now.
Okay.
There's a lot that they take care of and take off of our plate as team leaders so we can still do things in the way that we need to do. I mean, we talked about it. They just did the same day. Have you had a closing yet since the same day payment thing came out?
I have one today, so we'll see.
Yeah, it's great. You literally get an email.
To be continued.
And it's just in your bank account. So like things like that, I don't know what that costs to set up. And it's got to cost something, or you need to have some sort of a scale to be able to do it because
what they did,
everybody would have done it.
Yeah, what they really did is, my analysis of EXP is they're pushing the value and the money down to the agents, having a smaller footprint on the top level.
Right.
That really doesn't do anything on the day-to-day. It's not affecting your day.
No, and that's another reason that we love being here. There's no politics. You don't really hear from EXP unless you do something really stupid. And we're able to run our own teams within this organization, and it's probably the cheapest model out there to be able to do that.
Yeah.
And, I'd say the one thing that I would tell Glenn is we need some better events in this area for the greater EXP brand. And, I think part of the reason we don't necessarily have that is because they recognize that they're going after these growing teams, and these teams have their own culture anyway.
So, Erik, I have a question for you based on what you just said.
Yep.
And Brett talked about it, and Brett knows we've talked about this a lot. No one is buying you because you work at EXP. You can go anywhere.
Yep.
You're going to make the same amount of money.
Yep.
So Brett and I are talking about, and it's my job, I'm working on it, is the Align brand is really the brand.
Yep.
The EXP is the backbone of how you get paid and how you're following the rules and the laws of the state of New Jersey.
Yep.
But Align, Erik, Brett are the brand. Omar, the brand.
Totally.
Tara, the brand. Tara can go anywhere. She can go to Remax tomorrow. It's not going to move her needle.
She was there, so she probably isn't going.
Oh,
back.
is it? No, she's not going to. All right, I just shot that out. I got to say I know my audience.
But she's
you never know.
She's a good example. She was at Remax for a year. She was at Coldwell Banker for a year. She sold 6 homes in her best year ever. She sold 31 the year after when she joined us.
And what are you going to test that to? It's not EXP.
Just little tweaks.
It's not EXP. That's the point I'm trying to make. Mm-hmm. It's not your brokerage. It's the management team, leadership, training, mentorship, guide you through transaction management. Like, we'll get this deal done. We have all the infrastructure. Because I've told Brett this before, that, and I've been around the block, and I have never seen a team, just a team, have better management infrastructure and tenure. Mm-hmm. That's why you hear everyone talk about that. Like, I've never seen it. So there's something to say about that. Tara is here because of the team, not of EXP.
Yep.
EXP's great. It's great. I mean, listen, you get those downlines, and it's a great model. I've totally bought into the model. But at the end of the day, you're selling homes, right? So all that downline is just extra, like you said, pay for your Lexus payment or whatever. Mm-hmm. It's all that extra stuff. It's who you're working with. Do you believe in them? Do you buy into them? Do you trust them? Are they authentic? And they're genuinely out for your well-being.
Totally.
So you want to hear how training's broken. Tara was a perfect example. Her mom, Gail and Tara, they used to come up to the Keller Williams office in Hoboken. You remember that?
Yeah.
They would drive up and spend the day with me while they were working at Coldwell Banker or Remax or whatever. And they say, we're door knocking, we're doing this, we're doing that, we're playing all out. And I'd sit there and I'd audit. Okay, great. Well, when you're knocking on the door and you're getting their contact information, then what happens? I don't know. They just told me to door knock. Okay. Let's start developing that sales process. Let's start getting into that. So we had folks that wanted to work. Tara wanted to work, but somebody was teaching her, probably from something they saw on YouTube or read in a book, and they'd never actually done themselves,
right, how
to do what she was trying to do. And it wasn't connecting the dots from end to end. And that was my experience when I first started in 2007 as well. It was very like sizzle and no steak. Whereas for Tara, we sat her down with Danny and we're like, when you make the phone call and you get the email, this is where the lead goes. This is what your follow-up cadence looks like. This is how you're going to run the CRM to the fullest. This is what you're going to send them. Like, we have handwritten note cards. Tara sends them out after she meets with them. Literally right now, I'm going on a listing appointment for her because somebody responded to one of her letters in January, and then she followed up. She had a baby last week, so shout out to Tara for that.
And she's still killing it.
And I will gladly go present on her behalf because she works her butt off when she's not taking time on maternity leave.
I call it, we're talking the same philosophy, and you and I have talked about this. I call it the if-then.
Yeah.
What happens often in training, the deficiency is you get someone, and they say yes, or there's, they want to do something, and you don't know what to say next. Mm-hmm. And you've lost credibility with them. So it's, if they say this, then you say that. Omar and I have talked about this. We're trying to develop it. If they say this, then you say that. And it's just a matrix that goes down, and that's how you build credibility. Because if someone says, yeah, I'm interested, and you kind of didn't expect them to say yes, and you don't know what to say next, you're like, and you just hang up the phone. That's what I think is important.
Then you put Eckhart on the phone, and then he closes it.
Exactly.
Is that
exactly
it? Simple.
So
anything else?
I was gonna say we're coming down. Do you have coming down to the wire of wrapping up? Do you have any other questions for us? I think you touched on everything.
Yeah, I think we touched on everything. I only have one question.
Yeah.
I only have one.
You got to ask Erik one of your quirky questions at the end too.
It's not corny.
Quirky.
Do you know who Rod Stewart is?
No.
Exactly.
What?
I know Rod Stewart.
Exactly.
Oh, yeah, Rod
No,
Stewart.
I didn't say like, did you meet him, go to
Rod
dinner
Stewart
with him?
or Rod Stewart?
Stewart.
Is it
The
Stewart
singer
or
Rod
Stewart?
Stewart.
I know Rod Stewart. I don't know Rod Stewart.
All right, we're done here. Gentlemen, it's been great. See you next
Awesome.
month.
Thank you.
There you go.